Welcome everybody to Dagon. This is a short story originally written by HP Lovecraft in 1917, reading off of Google here. Short story written by HP Lovecraft in 1917. It tells a disturbing tale of a World War I veteran, World War I American sailor, who escapes a German ship by raft and drifts to a deserted island. There he discovers ancient carvings of webbed hand, bulged-eyed humanoids, some whale-sized. Later, he encounters a similar monstrous creature in the flesh, driving him temporarily insane. So that is what the book, the short novel by H.P. Lovecraft is about. Like I said, written in 1917. We will see if the game is anything like it. I'm not sure if this is a game, just a immersive interaction. I'm not quite sure what it is exactly, but I do appreciate you guys tuning into the channel. This is my very first video. I suck at video games. I just really enjoy playing them. I hope you guys enjoy watching me play them. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get started. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Sorry, I read that all awkward, but some words are bold, some words aren't, so. All right,
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Okay. I'm gonna give you counteractive elements. One of you allowed to. Background or alter. The trivia is hidden in order to find the secrets. Focus your eyes and lock for the elder. Alright, so right mouse zooms in. Okay. WASD to walk.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Interesting so far?
So
Point and click kind of thing?
was the discipline of our captors that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself adrift and free,
wow.
I had but little idea of my surroundings.
This is my biggest fear right here. For those none of you know, but
Never a competent
that's my biggest
navigator,
fear, being stranded in the ocean.
I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
It's beautiful, though.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous. When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Wow.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime, yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
The Origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake, supernatural horror and literature, HP Lovecraft, and Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I should probably read this louder, I'm sorry guys. I dreamed that the whole hideous crawl and can't yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In Difference of Dagon, HP Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells, in his own words. I have hated fish and feared the sea and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old, but I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Wandry? I agree with them. I am also terrified of the ocean and do not like fish. I mean, I catch them. I like to catch them, but I not eat them. You can read the Discover trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find that the feature distracts you from the story. This can be changed anytime in the options. Nah, we'll keep it. So I did see that there was a VR experience of this game as well, and some DLCs. So maybe if this keeps being interesting, we might have to experience the DLCs.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
The VR would also be interesting. I have VR headsets, so.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. I'm not sure what to call him, the narrator, I guess. His voice is really good for the purpose, for narrating the story. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Just walked right over the squid. Gross.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
What is that? Does not look like a squid. Nah. What is that, a giant crab? Oh, that whale-sized. That is a whale. What do they mean, some whale-sized?
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
The horrors of the ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu? I hope, maybe, mythos and the fictional underwater sea of Relay, was convinced that life could not exist. Life could not exist. These bold words are confusing me. Life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar, sorry, I'd never seen that word before, organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana sailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet below the ocean surface in never-ending darkness and at hellishly cursing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Wow. Upon glancing at the modern photos of the deep-sea creatures, some such as the anglerfish, the fang-tooth fish, or the viperfish, and they're truly Lovecraftian creatures, it's hard not to find some irony in this. All right. Might have to look more into HP Lovecraft's work. If he or she, I'm not quite sure, is into the dark and creepy stuff.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
Oh, that looks so good. For a free game experience, whatever you want to call it, there's parts that are shockingly, look very good. The moon, the sky right now being one of them. The ocean at night earlier looked very good. But this is very, very cool so far.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Beautifully written.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Alien rock.
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
There's little paintings or something on it.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound. Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré.
So I wonder if this is kind of like how, I don't know if you guys have ever heard how scientists say there's like a lake underwater in the ocean. I'm not sure where it's located exactly. It might be the Mariana Trench, but basically it's like a cloud or something, or another form of water that's creating what appears to be a lake at the bottom of the ocean. So I wonder if that's what that is symbolizing, and like that's all the stuff that you will find above that, basically.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men. Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
Mermaids, maybe.
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine, which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
That is very creepy. Kind of almost looks like aliens, which is odd because I've been hearing lately, I'm sorry to go on a tangent here, but I've been hearing lately about how people think aliens, I'm not going to say that it's not possible, but aliens living underneath the ocean and have for, you know, thousands of years. So, huh.
They were
This is very interesting.
Outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Oh.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
It's very interesting how it's written because of what I read off Google earlier. It said it was written in 1917. It kind of seems as though they kept that same kind of... If I had to guess how people talked in 1917, it would be closer to what the game is showing now than how we talk currently.
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What?
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Oh, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, my God. It just scared the shit out of me.
Like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the mind.
God, I knew it was coming too. I'm such a bitch.
About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Oh, dude, imagine I would
I went mad then.
poop all over myself.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Bro, he's tripping right now.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
This makes me want to throw up. Let's go, dog. Let's get out of here.
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
And see, you hear stories like that, though, like where people, you know, they succumb to something, and then when they come to, they have this story of this and that, and, you know, most of the time it gets swept underneath the rug, but who's to say that they didn't go to, you know, wherever or whatever and say that, or, you know, who's to say they didn't see it? So it is kind of strange how our mind can make up things. Like if you have weird, vivid dreams where you can create these weird, crazy, you know, creatures in your head and stuff. But it kind of makes you wonder, like, how did your brain create? I don't know. It's just food for thought, I guess.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon. I've been saying it wrong. I'm sorry, everybody. The fish god. Dagon. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East and ancient god of the fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and the underworld prisoner warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for the fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In HP Lovecraft's words, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by the secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Huh. I'm about to go read HP Lovecraft's short story after this, and then maybe revisit this at a later date with a new appreciation for it, I should say. Oh, okay. Maybe do it in VR.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
August Derleth and the Cthulhu mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He was befriended. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works throughout his company, Arkham House. Also, he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's work after his death. He is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic. To the Cthulhu, I hope I'm saying that right, Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to the cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misinterpreted in today's culture. Or misrepresented in today's culture, I apologize. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in generating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the authors left the mortal plane. Okay. It was like, they didn't even want it? Is that what I'm getting from that? Very interesting design. The house, like an old house. Was I supposed to... Why did it have me come over here? Did it have me come over there to go over here? I hope.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
You got to off himself?
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply.
Yeah, that is... Imagine going, like, escaping war. You were a war prisoner. You're on a ship, and then you get captured by some creature like that? Wow, which one's worse?
I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed.
Same, dude. I agree 100%. We have no idea what's in the ocean. So, this music's kind of loud. I'll tell you guys at the end.
Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Like Pacific Rim, if you guys ever seen that movie. So, this is interesting because what I was going to say when the music was very loud is, sorry for talking so much. I'm sure you guys are trying to experience this just as much as I am, but so in the 50s at some point, I believe I read something on it, and I can't for the life of me find out where I read it at or find it again to read it again, but there was a great sea exploration in the 50s that started, and then it all of a sudden ended, and then they wanted to go to space. You know, they started the space race. So it was kind of like, what did they find in the ocean that made them say, hey, let's go to a different planet or go to the moon? You know, I don't know. It's just another one of them interesting things to think about. You know, what's in the ocean? We don't know. We have no idea what's in there. It's scary. We know more about outer space than we know about our own oceans.
The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
It does look really good. Like, the game looks very good.
It shall not find me.
No, I'm gonna... It's gonna give me a jump scare.
That hand. The window. The window.
Bro just ended it. Oh. Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. Dagon, the wow. The Railway Horror DLC. Nocturnes. And Cthulhu's Bedtime Stories. Alright, well, I am definitely going to check these out. For sure going to check out the Dagon DLC, and we'll see. We'll look into these other two. Maybe we'll do these other two next. Since this was such a short one, I didn't plan on it being very short. But maybe we'll do these two together. We'll see. But anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in for the video today. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It was very interesting. It definitely makes me want to go check out the next part of it. So, like I said, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.